In the next 30 or so minutes, I'm going to be teaching you what the exact 4 factors are that you need to leverage in order to beat any bad habit this year. And then out of those 4 habits, we're going to be going deeply into the easiest and the laziest one to understand and implement, so that by the end of this video, you have some actionable, real steps that you can take today to make that progress that you've been probably trying to make for the past few months and few years, and you keep relapsing. So lock in, put this full screen, do not scroll down to the comments, do not look at the suggested videos on the right of your YouTube. Lock in and let's pay attention for the next half an hour. So my name is Christian. I'm a coach for young men who's been helping young men overcome bad habits for the past 2 or 3 years now, whether that be gooning, whether that be drugs and alcohol, scrolling on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube for too long, whatever it may be. We all have a bad habit. We all have our secret vice. And in today's episode, we're just going to be going over what to do with those. So before we get into it, let's just start off by defining exactly what a bad habit is. Now, we all know what our bad habits are. There are some very obvious ones, such as gooning, playing video games all day, scrolling on TikTok, drinking too much, smoking weed, whatever it is. We know what they are. But what actually defines a bad habit? So I would define a bad habit super simply as anything that basically slows down your progress in life. So as men, we all have goals, whether you want to create a successful business, be financially free, have a body that you love and respect, and have a healthy, loving relationship with a woman who you deeply connect with, maybe start a family, whatever it is. Most of us guys have these long-term goals, and whatever it is for you, we likely have some bad habits, or even some good habits that are slowing down our progress to reaching those goals. So one of my favorite principles is also the right thing for the wrong reason is the wrong thing. So let me just draw down a quadrant here. This will help you understand what I mean by the right thing for the wrong reason is the wrong thing. So let's say you got your things, you got wrong things to do, wrong reasons, and you got right things to do, right reasons. So very simply, to make this super simple to understand, so you got your right things, wrong reasons. So let's just say, for example, a wrong thing to do could be like smoke weed. And a right thing to do could be go to the gym. And then we could say a bad intention could be to use or manipulate people to get what you want. It's like a bad thing to do, bad intention. We can all agree on that. And then a right reason to do something might be, to feel confident. So now we have this table here. So maybe you smoke weed, which is a bad thing to do. And you do it for the reason because you want to use people. Maybe you smoke weed because maybe it does make you feel confident, but that confidence makes you just fuck random girls who you're just going to use and you're not going to pursue a relationship with, which is probably not the best thing to do. So that's the wrong thing to do. It's a bad habit. Smoking weed is a bad habit because not only is it a bad thing to do, it's a bad intention. And then when it comes to weed, doing it for the right reason could be it helps you feel more confident. Maybe that makes you more creative. Maybe you're a musician and makes you make better tunes or whatever it might be. But there are still better intentions or there's better things to do in order to hack that confidence or to hack that creativeness that doesn't impact, your health or maybe your sleep or things along these lines. So it's still the wrong thing to do. And then let's go over to the gym. So gym, we know is a good thing to do, but you might do it for the wrong reason. Again, is to use people. Maybe you build up your physique, which is an awesome thing to do, build up your physique, but you're doing it. The only reason you're doing it is to get girls, which isn't the most wholesome reason to go to the gym. But maybe you're going to the gym because it helps you feel confident, which boosts every area of your life. And you're not using it to just use girls, but maybe it's to find that future wife or whatever it is, to be attractive to her. So out of all of these 4 examples, the only one that is a good habit is the gym when you're doing it for that good intention. So this helps to explain that principle of the right thing for the wrong reason is the wrong thing. So we know that the wrong thing is the wrong thing regardless of why you're doing it. But A good thing, such as going to the gym, can be a bad habit when it's been done for the wrong reason. And that's the definition of a bad habit. Very simple. We won't spend any more time on that. So that basically means that step one in figuring out whether something is a bad habit or not is just ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you find out that you're doing the right thing for the wrong reason, then just change the reason why you're doing it. But if you are doing a bad thing, whether it's a good reason or bad reason, then we need to stop doing the bad thing and maybe find a better way to achieve the good intention that you're using this bad thing to do. So as I said at the start, there's 4 factors when it comes to beating a habit. We're just going to be spending time on this video just focusing on one habit, but I'm quickly going to just quickly touch on what these 4 habits are. So there's 4 factors. There's chemical, mental, emotional, and environmental. Very simple. There's also a 5th one, a bonus one, which is spiritual, but that's not for everyone. It depends on basically where you are and what your beliefs are. But I'll quickly touch on them and then we're going to be spending the rest of this lesson on environmental, because that is, out of all of these ones, it's the easiest one to, or the simplest one to start implementing today. So when it comes to chemical is just talking about this molecule in your brain called dopamine. You've probably heard about dopamine either from someone like Andrew Huberman, or you've just seen it pop up on Instagram or TikTok or even on YouTube, people talking about it. Dopamine is basically this chemical in your brain that determines what you're motivated to do. So the cool thing about this chemical factor is we can actually manipulate this chemical in our brain to make us more motivated to do good things and less motivated to do these bad habits. So this one's a bit more sciencey. I'll probably cover it in another video. Now, the next factor is mental. And to put it simply, mental just means what you believe about yourself and about the world around you and about your past, your future, everything. It's just what you believe, your thoughts. Now, this one, as well as emotional, are the most important out of all these factors. But we do want to leverage all 4 of these factors, but these 2 are the most important. Mental is like the David Goggins type of mindset that you will need to adopt in order to overcome a bad habit. So easiest thing to remember is your thoughts. Your thoughts control your emotions, which control your actions, which control your outcomes. So if you're not getting the outcomes you want, it's because you're not taking the actions, which you guys know you're not able to take the actions because you're doing bad habits, you're doing bad actions. That comes down to like a way you're feeling, which is derived from a thought you're having. And then if we can change that thought, it flows on to all of that. So emotional is the same thing. It's just this part here. A good way to actually understand what your thoughts are is to learn how to process your emotions. And I don't mean that in this like liberal, blue-haired, feminist way of being in touch with your emotions. It's more of it's a masculine way of being able to be aware of your emotions without having them consume you and control you, which I'll teach in another video. So those 2 are the most important, and they're what you would call the root cause. The root cause. So chemical and environmental are good ones to leverage, but at the end of the day, if you don't fix these, nothing's going to happen because they're the things that actually cause the bad habit. So what do I mean by root cause? Root cause basically just means what is actually the thing that is making us do this other thing. What is at the center, or what is at the bottom of the chain? So this is like a chain. So it's like one link, another link, another link, another link. So like what's the thing at the bottom of the chain, or at the bottom of the rabbit hole that caused us to spiral? Like what's that thing? That's what the root cause is. So in today's society, we live in a backward society where we don't like to fix the root cause. What we like to do is we like to fix the symptoms. So when you're feeling sad or you're feeling depressed, what does your doctor do? Your doctor will give you a pill because that is fixing the symptom of sadness. But it's not fixing what is the thing that caused the sadness. And you can go into conspiracies as to why it is. You know, the health industry or the pharmaceutical industry doesn't make money if they fix it. They only make money if you have to rely on this pill for the rest of your life. if you understand what I mean by root cause versus symptom, then skip ahead a minute or two. But if not, just stick around for a minute and I'll quickly just touch on this. So there's this disease known as diabetes. And I'm just going to use this as a simple example. Now, diabetes, super simple, is caused by this thing called insulin resistance. So I'm going to say IR. Now, basically, when you eat something that contains sugar, sugar goes in your blood. So let's say this is your blood. I don't know, you eat a cake. So that's a cake. Now you've got sugar in your blood. And then there's this hormone, or there's this chemical or thing in your body called insulin. So I'm going to say insulin, I. And insulin's job is basically to take this sugar and put it out of your blood into your sugar stores. The sugar stores. So that when you need energy, it can go back into the blood to your muscle and you can do whatever you need to do with that sugar. Now, when this sugar store gets full, which happens quite easily because your sugar store is actually quite small, then insulin, what it does is it takes the sugar or the excess sugar that can't, if the sugar can't fit into this store, then what it does, it will take that sugar and it'll put it into your huge, massive freezer called your fat stores. So it basically puts it into your fat stores. Very simply, that's what it does. So if you eat too much sugar, you eat too much cake, then basically this is always full. So then your insulin is basically forced to put everything into your fat stores. So obviously sugar isn't fat. So how is your insulin able to put sugar into fat? The way it does this is basically, think of it like, let's say you have a door that's meant to be a door, and the only way this door can open is if you have a key. You have a key. Now, insulin has the key to open that door to put the sugar in. If you eat too much sugar, then your fat stores, let's say there's a general who's in charge of the fat stores, says, no, we don't want any more because we're full. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the locks on the doors so that your key no longer works. But the problem is there's still all this sugar in the blood and it needs to go somewhere because it can't just stay in the blood because it's not good for you. So what your body will do is it'll say, well, let's double or triple the amount of insulin that we have in our blood so that we basically just bombard your fat stores and break down the doors so that we're basically forcing the insulin in. And then your general in your fat stores basically says, well, we're going to close all the doors. So it's basically this battle. And then if that goes on long enough, you become insulin resistant, which basically means you need more insulin in order to do the same job. And we all understand this, like lots of us with our bad habit, whether it be porn, whether it be drinking or whatever, it's basically you need more and more of the thing or more extreme forms of the thing. Like you need to start watching more extreme versions of porn in order to get that same pleasure that you got initially. It's basically the same thing. So basically once this happens, you're diabetic. You have what's known as insulin resistance. So if you're looking at this, what would be the easiest solution in order to stop your general from getting pissed off so that you no longer become insulin resistant? Well, most of you will probably say, well, the thing that caused it is there's so much sugar in the blood that your insulin can't fit it in here anymore, that it has to fit it in here, and then there's so much that he gets pissed off. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to stop him getting pissed off, which means we need to make sure this doesn't overflow too much, which means we need to make sure that, first of all, there's not too much sugar in the blood to start, which means we need to stop eating like a fat fuck. So we need to reduce our sugar intake would be the root cause and therefore the root solution to our diabetes. But guess what the modern day doctor gets you to do? What they do is they prescribe you with insulin. They actually inject insulin into you so that you have more and more and more and more insulin, and then you become more and more and more and more insulin resistant, which means over the course of whatever, 20, 30, 40 years, you rely on more and more insulin. So you're buying more and more insulin, which only makes you more and more insulin resistant, which makes you need more and more insulin. And then your diabetes is never actually solved. They're just solving the symptom of high blood sugar. Oh, we have high blood sugar. Let's try and remove the high blood sugar by just shoving it in here instead of fixing the thing that caused the high blood sugar in the first place. So that's what we mean when we talk about root cause. So hopefully after that short example, you understand that a bit more. And then, as I said before, the fifth and final one is spiritual, which is basically just leaning on your spiritual, on your religious beliefs in order to leverage your self-improvement, which I can talk about in another video as well. An important thing to understand is there is no one factor that you need to leverage, or that you can leverage only that factor in order to succeed. You have to do all four. You can't just focus on one and expect yourself to overcome all of your bad habits. You need to leverage all four of them. Now, as I said, these two are the root causes, so you want to leverage them the most, but these two must also be leveraged. And then what most guys do, and the reason why most guys fail, is they only focus on maybe this one or maybe this one, and they don't make any progress. You make progress, but then you plateau. You don't go past a certain level. You can't go more. The reason why is because you haven't learned to leverage all four of them, which I'll make videos on all four, but today we're just going to talk about environmental, which, as I said, is the easiest and the simplest to leverage at the very beginning, or not even at the very beginning, but it's the easiest one to get some quick wins, some quick gains in your self-improvement and in overcoming your bad habits and getting back your self-control. So the end goal for all of us when it comes to overcoming a bad habit is to have complete self-control. That's what we want. We just want self-control. There's this study that someone did where they had a bunch of kids sit at a table. You've probably heard of this study before. It's called the marshmallow study. And basically they had these kids sit at a table with just one marshmallow. So let's just say this eraser is a marshmallow. And these kids would just sit at this table like this with a marshmallow in front of them. And they had to sit there for 15 minutes. If they sat for the entire 15 minutes and didn't eat the marshmallow, they were able to get a second marshmallow. So basically, if you ate the marshmallow, you got one marshmallow. If you didn't eat the marshmallow, you got two marshmallows. And what they actually found is the children who were able to not eat the marshmallow and then get the second marshmallow 15 minutes later actually had better life results later in life. So they actually tracked these children. The experiment didn't stop just there and then. They tracked these children for the next 20, or I'm not sure how long, but they tracked them for another portion of their life and discovered that the children who were basically able to delay gratification, or not just be an impulsive fuck and just eat this straight away, were able to have better life results. So the end goal, as I was saying, is to have complete self-control and to have that marshmallow in front of you and to not be tempted. It's to have the beer or the bags in front of you to not be tempted. It's to be able to live in today's society that is over-sexualized and all of this and not be tempted by lust, or not give in to lust. It's not to just close your eyes and never look at a woman. That's the end goal. But most of us aren't there yet. Most of us aren't at the level where we could have a marshmallow in front of us and not touch it, because most of us are probably fat fucks who aren't good at these three yet. It's just a fact. If you're not good at these three, you will pick up the marshmallow. So basically what environmental is, it's removing the marshmallow so you can't see the marshmallow, which basically gives you time to leverage these, give them a plus, so that in the future, marshmallow is in front of you, you don't touch it. You have no desire to touch it. But when you're shit at these other three, or even these other four, spiritual as well, you'll have no hope. Or basically, you're stacking the cards against yourself. Like you're giving yourself more chance to fail. Now, the thing is, because the end goal is to have complete self-control, that means that we're not at the end goal yet because you're watching this video, which means you don't have complete self-control, which means that if this marshmallow is in front of you, you are going to touch it. So let's mentally prepare for that. Let's go into mental for 2 seconds here, and then we'll get back to environmental. So if you know you are going to touch the marshmallow, which means you know you are going to relapse someday, because that's just part of the process. Relapsing is part of the process. If you expect, I'm going to tell you this right now, if you expect to overcome a bad habit without ever touching it again, you are setting yourself up for failure, mentally and emotionally. You will not succeed by doing that. You must understand that failure and relapsing is part of the process, and it's more important to focus on making progress rather than trying to aim for a perfect streak. That's meant to be okay. If you're the type of person who wants to get a 100-day no-fap streak or something like that, that's the end goal. You should want the end goal, but you have to understand that your sense of peace, or your sense of, or the sense of you being a good person or good enough person, or your confidence in yourself, or your self-worth. That's the word I'm looking for. Your self-worth should not be tied to the streak. Your self-worth should be tied to making progress. And what do I mean by that? Like, what's the difference with this? If you're going for a 100-day no-fap streak and you relapse on day 99, you're going to feel like a piece of shit. But let's say that's a massive test or a uni exam or something like that, like a college test or something. That's 99%. That's fucking unreal. So when we focus on making progress, what that looks like is, okay, let's say we have a month. Like, let's say we have 28 days, because that's 7 times 4 weeks, 28 days. Let's say last month you relapsed or you watched porn like 20 days. Let's see if next month you can do better than that. Let's say if you can do 15, and then maybe you do 10. And then maybe you get to a point where instead of watching it every month, you get to the point where you're watching it 3 months. And then it's like 6 months. And then the time in which you do it, and then the time between when you do it and when you do it next gets so far and far between, to the point where it's like years, it's decades. And to the point now you can say you have self-control. It doesn't control your life anymore. It might only control you for one moment every couple of years, which in the grand scheme of things, if you can do that, you're doing better than 99% of people. And now you have that end goal of self-control. So we need to focus on progress and understand that failure is all part of the process. Because when you fail, failure is an opportunity for you to first of all figure out, okay, why the fuck did I fail? And then now that you know why you failed, you can do something about it. Maybe you failed because you just go to the bar all the time, but there's just alcohol everywhere. So maybe like, okay, maybe I need to stop going to the bar. So you realize that. And then you do something about it, which is what environmental is. So let's talk about your environment. Your environment are the people, the places, and the things that you're surrounded by the most. You know, the most of the time, the places you're at the most, the people you're around the most, and the things that are around you or in your environment most of the time. And these 3 things here play a massive role in you overcoming a bad habit. Because a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. So let's think about that for a sec. And to use an example, let's say we talk about basketball. Let's say we take Michael Jordan in his prime and we have you. Yeah? We have Michael Jordan versus you. Michael Jordan versus you in basketball. And let's say we take Michael Jordan and we place him in a team of losers. A team of losers where the coach is an absolute loser, the assistant coach is a loser, everyone in the team is a loser. They have a shocking mindset. Now, you've probably heard the cliche thing of you become the average of the 5 people you hang around. Let's say even the facilities are shit. It's in a dodgy area. Even the dietitian is shit. They're feeding them junk food, all this stuff. Michael Jordan is a strong person, probably the strongest person in history, in the weakest possible environment. So he's not going to be doing very well. And let's say we take you. You, just average person, probably not that good at basketball compared to Michael Jordan. And we could probably admit, probably a bit of a loser. You know, you have some bad habits. You have an all right mindset, but still not that good. And let's say we take you into a winning environment and we put you in the best possible NBA team with the best possible players you could ever imagine, excluding Michael Jordan. And we give you the best coach you could probably ever imagine. Maybe someone like John Wooden or something like that. And you have an optimized diet because you have the best dietitian, you have the best coach, the best assistant coach, your facilities are top notch, you have the best gym, the best strength and conditioning coach. So you put on muscle and you become super fit within a year. You're up to NBA level within a year or whatever it may be, 2 years. And let's say we have these 2 players, you and MJ, we track you over 5 years or something like that. you're going to win. Because even though you are a weak person, you're in an environment that will force you to level up. You have no choice but to level up. You have no choice but to level up because the cards are completely stacked in your favor. Because when you walk into the facility on a Tuesday or a Monday to train, you are surrounded by so many players, so many big players, so many winners that you are forced to level up because it will be embarrassing to not. You have no option. You have to level up. You're surrounded in a place that will force you to not fail. You have no other option but to win, so you will win. But MJ, on the other hand, is in the complete opposite. He is working against the tide, whereas you're being flown down this stream with no option. But like, even if you tried to lose, it would be hard. Let's say you were forced to stay here for 5 years. You could not leave. You would have, like, someone picked you up, grabbed you by the neck every Monday, Tuesday, whenever you train, and just dragged you there. Even on your bad days, you're going to be making huge progress compared to MJ. Even on his good days, he'll be struggling to make progress. Because let's say after 2 years, his mindset would be that shit that he wouldn't be able to make any progress. So a strong person in a weak environment will lose to a weak person in a strong environment. That's how important this is. Because what that means is, no matter how good your chemical is, no matter how good your chemical is, like maybe you're maximizing your dopamine detox and all this stuff, no matter how good your mindset is and how emotionally stable you are, if you are surrounded by a bunch of losers who take you to shitty places, and your room's a mess, and your room reminds you of you being a loser and who you were 3 years ago when you were like at your lowest, there's no wonder why you're going to fail. Like, even if all these things are in your favor and you're doing everything you can to stack those things, you're still going to fail because you're in a weak environment. You're working against the tide. You're running uphill. What you need to do is you need to stack everything in your favor. Stack the places, the people, and the things. Now, the reason why I'm starting with environmental, even though it's not the root cause, as I said, it's the laziest one that you can start implementing today. And it's actually one of the more important ones because, as I said before, like, let's say we have this marshmallow. If you can remove the marshmallow, then what that basically does is it gives you a chance to work on these three without having to worry about this one. You don't have to worry about it because it is going to be much harder for you to work on these three when you have the marshmallow right in front of you. It's going to be much harder for you to improve your mental, emotional, and chemical. Fix your dopamine, fix your junky habits of reaching for your phone every 10 seconds if your phone is the most enticing thing to go for. We need to stack it in a way that you're not tempted to do it, that you can't even see it. If you're trying to stop watching porn, for example, we need to leverage these. These three here are the more important ones. They're the ones that are basically there. These are the more root cause solutions to stop watching porn, for example. But if you make it almost impossible to watch porn, then it's going to be much easier to work on these, to leverage these. Why? Because 80% of your energy is no longer going towards fighting this. Now you can put that into here. You can put it into here. This is known as what we could call the 80-20 principle, where 80% of the results come from 20% of the work. This is the 20. This is the 20. When you spend 80% of your time trying to battle this, it only leaves 20% of your energy for this. How are you going to expect yourself to win? You can't. You're Michael Jordan in the shitty team, in the ghetto team that has no facilities, that's eating junk food every day. How can you possibly win? So what we need to do is we need to build a foundational environment where it is almost impossible for us to lose, or impossible for us to relapse. Now, as I said, you will relapse every now and then, but you want to make it as hard as possible in order to relapse. As hard as possible. Because when we do that, then these things feel more effortless. They feel more effortless. They become more obvious and they're easier to do because the energy isn't just focused on all of this stuff. So I used to be a DJ from when I was 19 to around when I was like 23, 24. I had my last ever DJ gig, or my last DJ gig I had was last year, around this time last year, around October. It's October 28th as I'm recording this right now. And I haven't had one since then because although I haven't completely stopped DJing, it's just not a focus for me. You know, there's too much time and energy. If an amazing gig came my way, I'd take it, but I'm not fussed either way because it's not a priority for me right now. But when you're in the nightlife industry and people who are either DJs or you're a host or you're somehow involved in more than just going to the club, maybe you're a bit more behind the scenes, you'll understand what I mean. So basically, I'll paint a picture for you. When you're a DJ or you're more involved in the nightlife industry, you basically have access to lots of free stuff, free drinks, free drugs on occasion, but even if they're not free, they're offered to you 24/7. So you are basically if you're someone who's trying to overcome a bad habit, which I was, you're in a weak environment. You are in a weak environment. The cards are stacked against your favor. So like you'll walk into a club and I'd be at almost like the same clubs every weekend. I was actually what was known as a resident DJ at a club, which basically means it's almost like you're employed there. We literally send in our availability to the club and they'd give us like shifts for the next month or two, and we knew them a month or two in advance when we'd be DJing, what times and all that, which is pretty cool. They're nice and organized. But every time you walked in there, you'd be given what was known as a birthday package, which was this card that had 10 stamps that was 10 free drinks, basically like 10 shots and 10 standard drinks or whatever, like a rum and coke or a scotch and coke or whatever, or vodka pineapple as I always used to get. So you had access to that. And then when you're DJing, people come up, they get you drinks, buy you drinks and other things they'd want to offer you. And you'd be offered like all sorts of stuff. Like every time you walk around the corner by your mates, by the owners, by other people who are just involved, whether it be a host or whatever, they just offer you things, drinks, even substances. When you're DJing, you don't really want to be in the crowd and stuff. So really the only time you want to be like in the club is pretty much only if someone really good is playing, like your mate or a headliner, or when you're playing. Every other time you want to be, you don't want to be in the club. You want to be in this room that's basically called the green room, which is basically this lounge where you get to chill out, hang out with all the other DJs and the owners and just chill. And then in this room, there's free drinks and there's usually some sort of free drug being offered around every now and then. So the way I learned self-control was being a DJ in this environment where basically everything you could ever imagine is basically being offered to you all the time, constantly, and learning how to say no and learning to basically have the marshmallow in front of me and not touching it. That's how I learned self-control. But what I didn't realize is during the years of 2020 to maybe 2021, because I live in Melbourne in Australia and we had some of the toughest lockdown laws in the world. We were basically isolated for, I don't remember how long it was, but it was a very long time compared to a lot of the world. And I was a bit of a normie back then where I just listened to, like I would just isolate because like also for family reasons and stuff like that. But like I was a bit of an NPC, so I just did whatever the government told me back then. What I didn't realize is during this period of 2020 to 2021, when I was isolated, like I was going through a pretty rough time as well. I went through my first ever breakup of 3 years. And I was in a very dark patch. Like you were just at home. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't see your mates. Well, you could, but you weren't like allowed to. And I didn't because I was a bit of a loser back then. And like all I could do was just like play video games, and all of this stuff. And once I was able to overcome that, I had basically this 6 to 12 month period where without knowing it, I was able to actually level up these things because I was in an environment where I couldn't really access drinking or going out or partying or all this stuff because it wasn't allowed. You couldn't do that for a solid 6 to 12 months. You couldn't go out and party. Now, when we came out of lockdown, I did dabble in all of that. Like I had a huge nicotine addiction at one point where I was sucking on vapes 24/7. I remember one time, one of my mates and I were driving home from a night out and our weekends would look like, most people have 5-day weekdays and 2-day weekends. It would be the opposite. Like I'd have 2-day work days and 5-day weekends. Like I'd be out 5-day weekends. We'd be out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And one night it would have been either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Usually either Friday or Saturday. We were coming home from this one club. When we walked out, it was already daylight. So this would have been maybe 6 or 7 a.m. And we were driving home. And we were driving along the freeway to go. I was dropping my mate off because I wasn't drinking that night, but I had my vape, of course. Fun fact, like a good way to stop drinking is just drive everywhere. Like that's a good way to hack your environmental. But I had my vape. That's what I used to use all the time because I couldn't drink, couldn't do any of these other things. So I'd suck on a vape. I remember it died mid-drive. We were probably 10 minutes from my mate's house to drop him off. And that was the angriest he'd ever seen me. I full on yelled and raged as soon as it died, threw out the window, banged on the horn. And I'm usually like quite a chill dude. So he was really concerned. I was like, whoa, this is a side of Christian I've never seen. And it was a side that I kept hidden because like one of the reasons why I used to vape was just to keep me calm, keep me cool. But even throughout all those years of clubbing and all these things, like me being in that environment of the nightlife industry, being out 5 times a week where you're constantly surrounded by everything you could possibly imagine. So I had to leverage like my self-image and become more aware of my emotions. Because obviously in order to overcome my vapes, I had to deal with rage. I had to deal with my anger and all these things. And I had to start stacking things in my favor, which is another reason why I ended up like taking a step back from DJing as well. But I was able to get to a point where no matter what environment I was in, I could stay sober and I'd have complete self-control. Where, for example, if it's a friend's birthday and they're going to a bar and some people might be getting some drinks, I have no desire to do that. And that is exactly where I want you to get to. I want you to have complete control. That starts with leveraging your environment. And then once all of these have been leveraged, including your environment, then you can possibly do what I used to do and be able to go to like some of the most notorious places in Melbourne in particularly, where bad habits are known for and have no desire to do them. And that actually for me, like, okay, yes, during that period of time probably wasn't good for me because it's still a bad habit for me. It was still a bad habit. And I realized this, it was a bad habit for me to still be going out every weekend, even though I was sober, because what is a bad habit? Something that prevents your progress in other areas of life. It was the wrong thing, which is being out all the time, but I was doing it for the right reason because the reason I was going was, or the excuse I was making is, this is a good chance for me to practice discipline, which it was. It was a great chance for me to practice self-control, to have all the marshmallows in front of me and not touch them, which was great. And it'd be cool for you to get to that point too. But maybe you don't need to go out and stuff like that. But my intention was, okay, well, I do like music because I was a DJ and music is a passion. I want to be able to go to maybe an event per year, maybe one of my favorite DJs is playing, and just experience the music with no desire to take drugs or to drink or whatever it is. And I've gotten to that point, but sometimes what you'll probably realize, and you'll only realize this by going through the other side of it, which is this goes into the chemical side of things, is usually once you get to that level of self-control, you almost have zero desire to even do anything that involves it. Like you don't. And what I mean by that is normal life becomes fun, that you don't need all these extra things on top of it. Where just working becomes fun, going to the gym becomes fun, and I know going for walks in nature with friends becomes fun. And that's basically my life at the moment. So, which means I don't need all these other bad habits in order to elevate my life. So how do we actually stack these people, places, and things, environment in our favor? How do we optimize it? Well, the way to do that, as I said before, is to make our bad habits as hard as possible to do, and make our good habits, or the other habits that we want to do in replacement of them, as easy as possible to do. And if you've read of, or you've probably heard of this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, I'm pretty sure in that book he talks about this principle here, which is basically make good things easy, make bad things hard. Simple. And that's what environment is. It's just making good things easy and bad things hard. Because as we said, like Michael Jordan in a bad team, that's making the good things of showing up to training, being fit and all these things, that's making it hard to do. Because he's training in a place that probably isn't motivating. He's eating food that probably isn't motivating him and probably isn't giving him the energy he needs. And he's surrounded by people that are losers. So that's making them the bad things easier for him to do. Now let's talk about you, for example. Let's say you want to stop porn. Or let's say you want to stop playing video games, for example. It's going to be very hard for you to stop playing video games if your bedroom, so let's say places, looks like this. So that's your room. Oh no, this is your bed. That's your bed. And then this is your door. And then like your desk is right here. And you have an Xbox right here. What's the first thing you're going to want to do when you wake up? And let's say like your phone's right here. What's going to be the first thing you do when you wake up? You're going to reach for your phone. And then because you've been scrolling on your phone for half an hour, you're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to go find some more dopamine, and you're just going to play Xbox all day. Because your environment is stacked in a place where you feel like an absolute loser. But let's say, alternatively, what you did is, like, and then let's say you have like all those, you know, those, what are they called, those boxes? I think it's called Pop, where they have all those action figurines in there and all that. You have them like all over your room and stuff. Everything in your room is motivating you to go play video games. And you have all the games in your room and everything there. Everything in your room is motivating you to go play video games. You are going to be a strong person in a weak environment, or even a weak person in a weak environment. You're going to lose. But let's say, for example, on your bedside table, there's a book. It's a book. And then maybe you charge your phone like outside your room, or maybe over here. Or maybe you charge it in the living room or something. Like that's the living room here. You charge it over here. Then on your desk, all that's there is a laptop where you maybe do some work. Maybe you're doing some studies in uni, or maybe you're trying to start a business, or maybe you're in school or whatever it is. And all that says maybe other books, like your textbooks. And here's like a self-improvement book. Maybe it's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or something. Or maybe it's like your Bible or whatever it is. Like when you wake up, you can't touch your phone because it's over here. So you either have an option. It's either you do nothing, or you grab your book, or you sit at your desk, or maybe even have some dumbbells here or something, so that you have options when you wake up. You either work out, and maybe you have your gym clothes out because you intend to go to the gym first in the morning. So you're stacking your environment in your favor, and you're adding things that make it easier to do the good habits. So you're putting the book in a strategic place. You're putting the dumbbells in a strategic place. Maybe have your gym clothes already laid out on your chair from the night before. And then maybe you already have on your laptop, as soon as you open it, you have the work already open that you plan to do that day. And then maybe what you do is you realize that you spend all day on YouTube because you're here watching a YouTube video, and you install some certain Chrome extensions that block YouTube, or not even block it, but there's actual ones. I have these extensions. I can give them to you if you wish. Just comment that you want them below. But there's some extensions. And I got these from a guy named Hamza Ahmed. He has them on his videos, I think. On some of his videos, that's where I got it from. There's certain extensions you can install for YouTube, which disables the comments, so you can't see the comments. It disables the videos, on the right of the screen, the recommended videos. So you can't see them, so you can't get distracted figuring out, what am I going to watch next? Or, what's everyone else saying about this? You're just locked in to watch the video. And then you can add ones that blur the thumbnail, so you can't see the clickbait thumbnail, the high dopamine thumbnail that's going to be like, this looks interesting. So the only thing that determines whether you go to watch a video or not is the title. So you're only going to watch things that are maybe interesting or relevant to what you're specifically going on YouTube for. And then there's also one where whenever you click on YouTube, or wherever you go to the homepage of YouTube, it just takes you straight to your subscriptions. So you only see what you want to see. That's stacking that in your favor. And then maybe even on your phone, you're trying to stop watching porn or something, or you're trying to stop playing video games. You delete all the video games. You install an app that blocks explicit sexual content or sexual apps. I've got a good one. It's called Remojo. You can use it. That's what I've used. It's called Remojo. Blocks porn. And there's a slider where you can set how extreme you want it to be. Whether you want it to just block specific apps, or you want it to just literally block anything that comes up on your laptop that could be explicit, or on your phone. Actually, what I used to do, because as a dude, porn was a big one for me. I struggled with that for a huge time, a very long time. But I'm at the point now where, although I tell you don't worry about the streak, I don't check my streak, but I think the last time I checked, it was over 1,000 days, and I'll pop up a screenshot from my Mojo app that shows that. That would have been from ages ago, because I actually deleted this app because last week I did a clean of my phone and deleted everything I didn't need anymore. I don't need this app anymore because I have no desire to watch it anymore, or to use porn anymore. But what I did, this is an example of exactly what I did. So on all of my devices, so my laptop, my iPod Touch from back in 2011, 2012, even that, because here's what would happen. I installed Mojo on every device possible: my laptop, my phone, my iPad, and my iPod Touch. Which iPad and iPod Touch were things I had not used in 10 years. But I realized that through failure that, okay, I couldn't access it on my phone or my laptop because I had this app Mojo. I made it impossible to access. But what I could do is I could hotspot my phone to my iPod. I could hotspot my phone to my iPod, which meant I could watch it on my iPod. And my iPod was in my desk, in my bedside table, right next to my bed. Now, the thing is, because my iPod Touch was like 10 years old, you couldn't actually install this app. So I hit a bit of a stalling point. I didn't know what to do. I did not know what to do. So, and the only way I figured this out is because I relapsed, because I failed. Now, if I hated failure, then I never would have figured this out, because I would have been so focused on the streak that I would have just beaten myself up when I failed and never took a moment to realize, okay, why did I fail? What can I do about it? Which is why it's so important to focus on progress rather than perfection. Actually, a quote I have here on my wall, it's by Mr. Winston Churchill. It says, "Another way to spell perfection is paralysis." You can think about that if you want. But let's talk about this. Is because I failed, I was able to realize, okay, one of the ways that idiot Christian, so Christian when he's horny, gets around the phone and the laptop is he goes to his iPod and he hotspots it. So here's what I had to do. I had to now make it impossible to access on my iPod. So what I did is I basically took my iPod, put it in my wardrobe in a box that was at the top of my wardrobe. So in order to get it, I had to get a stool, go on top of my wardrobe in a box, and then in that box it was locked. I put it in a box, inside a box that was locked. And the key for that was on another side of my room that was also just inconvenient to access. And then it would take me like 5 to 10 minutes to basically get to the point where I would be able to even watch it. And by that point, it was just too much effort. Then it made it impossible to access. Even with vaping, what I would do is I would just make it impossible to access. First of all, talk about leveraging people. I told my friends I don't want to vape anymore. So then they respected it so that they wouldn't offer me vapes. So that's a cool thing. You tell people that you want to stop so that they know. Now, obviously, if they are your true mates, they'll respect that and they will pull you up on it. And if they see you even thinking about it, they'll say, dude, stop. We're not letting you do that. But if they're shitty mates, they'll not understand it and they'll even offer it to you. But that's the thing. I made it impossible to access. I made sure I didn't even have enough money in my bank account in order to buy it. That's it. You got to make it as hard as possible to access. So that's pretty easy to understand. I'm not sure how far into the video we are so far because we've had a bit of story time with Christian, but let's get practical, because the reason you're here for this video isn't just to hear me talk about some information and stats and all this stuff. It's you're wondering, okay, yeah, but what do I actually do about it? Like, what actionable things can I do? So let's take a few minutes right now. Like, we'll even take 5 minutes, lock in, maybe get out a piece of paper or open up your phone on the notes app or whatever. Have somewhere you can write this down or think about it or just journal about it. We're going to do this right now. So people, I'm going to say PE, places, things. And you're going to optimize. We're going to optimize it together. And the way to do this is we're going to do both pluses and minuses. Or we'll do it the other way around. We'll start with minuses because that's the easiest to think of. And then we'll do pluses. So I do minuses, which are things to remove, things to add, basically. So what I want you to do is I don't want you to think of every single bad habit you have. I just want you to think of the obvious one, the one you really want to get rid of. Just the one bad habit, whatever that might be. It might be video games, it might be porn, it might be drinking, it might be drugs, it might be weed, whatever it is. Scrolling on your phone, spending too much time on your phone. Like maybe you want to reduce your phone time, for example. Whatever it is, just think of one. I don't want you to think of all 5 of them, just one. Let's just pick one. Let's make progress in that for now. Just one. I'm going to switch those around. You can put it at the top of your page and say, I am optimizing my environment to stop porn or to stop whatever it is. And then over the next 30, 60 days, you'll implement everything that you write down as best as you can. So let's start off with places. So places is where you go or where you spend a lot of time. The places where you spend a lot of time. And there's basically 2 places we can think of. There's the places you go outside of your house or outside of your room. So you might be going to, I don't know, the club or to the gym or to the sports, maybe play sports, or maybe you go to like your friend's house or whatever it is. Maybe you go to the park, whatever it is. And then the other place you might spend 50% or maybe even 90% of your time is maybe your room. So we want to optimize both these places. So we have I'm going to put them here, our room and everywhere else, basically. So you have your room and everywhere else. Let's just separate it. Room and everywhere else. So we'll start off with room because that's quite easy to optimize. Actually, we'll start with everywhere else. Now I'm going to do this with you, and I'm just going to, let's do an example, or I'm going to do an example, but you're going to do this for your bad habit. But let's say your example is drugs. I don't know, let's say Coke. So you're doing bags every weekend. And you want to stop doing that because it's a bad habit. It's ruining progress. You know, it makes you go out more for longer. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you have no energy. That's killing your progress. And it's also bad for your health and things along those lines. And you know that, you realize that. But now you're like, okay, how do I optimize my environment so that I stop doing Coke or whatever your bad habit is? So let's think about, okay, everywhere else. Easiest one to think of. Think about the places where you do it. So places where you do it might be the club. And you might list out specific ones. It might be this particular event. It might be birthdays. Maybe you do it at birthdays and weddings and stuff. Like maybe it's gotten to that point where you can't even go to a family event without doing it. Excuse my handwriting. That's meant to say weddings. And then you might think of, okay, those are the places where you do it. What are the places that remind you of it? What are the places that remind you of it? Maybe it's your friend's house because you two do it together. So that whenever you do it together or whenever you're at his house, you're tempted to do it. Or maybe it's like this particular friendship group because you guys all do it together. So whenever you're in an environment where they are there, that's more talk about people, but maybe there's particular places that you always go to. Maybe you go to a particular bar together, or you do a particular activity together, or there's a particular gym you all go to. Or for example, it's like, okay, I need to stop going to that gym because me going to that gym reminds me of this. It tempts me to do this because I'm going there with these people. And now I have an association of, okay, this gym leads to that. So you need to stop doing that. So you think about all the places that aren't your room, for starters, that you either do it at or that lead to you doing it at. So we can think about, okay, what places are the root cause? What places are either where I do it or what places lead to me doing it? So list them out. Just list them out for now. We're just going to do the negative to start and then we'll do the positive after. So once you've done that, then you just think about your room. You're probably watching this in your room. If you're not, just visualize your room, or maybe do this once you get back to your room or go into your room right now and just sit in your room and have a look around and just think, what in here reminds me of this? So maybe Maybe you have alcohol in your room. Maybe you have Coke in your room. Maybe it's in your drawer. Get rid of it. That's more of a thing. But remove the Coke. Maybe you have Coke in your room. Remove it. Maybe you have ketamine in your room or something. Remove it. Like, get rid of all the things that lead to it. Alcohol. Maybe you have alcohol in your room. And maybe you have all these, I don't know, festival clothes in your wardrobe. Get rid of them. Because if you don't have anything, if you don't have any outfits to go to these places, you're not going to go there because you're going to feel like, well, I look like shit. I'm not going to go. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Or at least like put them somewhere in your wardrobe. Like, or at least put them somewhere maybe in a drawer. Maybe they're not hanging up, but they're in a drawer. So you don't see them all the time. Maybe you remove the pictures of the people who you do those things with in your room. Simplest thing is, let's say, this is cliche, but what does your bed look like right now? Is it messy? Is your desk messy? Are there clothes on the floor? Is your bin full of just, I don't know, tissues that you used to jerk off and fap with and goon with? Like, clean it. Clean your room. Remove all the junk in your room. Remove all the junk in the room. Remove the things that remind you of the version of you don't want to be. The version of you who does this. Remove all the things that remind you of this person. Because I can guarantee you there's a dream version of you can envision in your mind. There's the dream version of you who you want to be. You can visualize him. You know what he looks like. You know what he sounds like. You know how he acts. You know how he thinks. You can visualize him. You know what he's like. You want to remove all the things that take away from him. Remove all the things that make you current you and past you. Remove them all. And then you can add the things that future you would have in his room. Maybe it is some dumbbells. Maybe your room becomes it has so little things in it that the only thing in it is dumbbells or laptop or whatever it is. Because maybe you realize that, okay, having a TV in my room makes me more lazy. It, as James Clear would say in Atomic Habits, he says something like, every action you do casts votes for the type of person you want to become. So let's say, like, in here is the version of you who sucks, and this side is the person of you who is awesome. You want to have less things around you. You want to do less things that cast votes that reinforce the idea that you suck. And you want to have and do more things that cast votes for the version of you who you want to be, who's the version who's like the top guy. The guy who makes the money, gets the girl, has the physique, all these things that you want. You want to remove as many votes or as many potential things that reinforce this version of you and add as many things that remind you of this. So, like, even though, for example, a TV might not lead you to doing coke, or you might not think it does, for example, or having your phone on your bedside table might not lead you to doing this or doing whatever bad habit it is. Having it in your room makes it more likely for you to scroll on TikTok or Instagram for 5 hours a day, or to open up Netflix at the end of the day and watch it until midnight or 2 or 3 a.m. or whatever it is, which is just casting more votes for the person you don't want to be. Which is just making it easier to do this. Go to the club where you do this, or go to the friend's house where you do this, or whatever it is. So look around your room right now and look around your room right now and just think, what in here reminds me of the person who does this, or the version of me who does this, the version of you who is lazy and undisciplined, the version of you who stinks, who is unorganized, who has no ambition. What things in your room remind you of that version of you? Write them down. Write them down. Another thing to do real quickly is just close your eyes with me, and just think about your typical day and your typical week. Just visualize your typical day and typical week, and like what you do and where you go and all these things. And anything that reminds you of that person, write it down here. And then if you find anything that's awesome, anything that's good, write it down in the plus. Because you want to keep reinforcing those habits and eliminating these ones. So for example, let's say you visualized your typical day. Your typical day is you first thing reaching for your phone. Okay. That will go in things, but it's also place. You can put it wherever you want, but you'd say phone next to bed. That's something I want to eliminate. Maybe you say, okay, we'll put a book there or nothing there. Whatever it is, write it down. Maybe you realize by charging your phone next to your bed, both at nighttime before you go to bed and in the morning, you're spending hours on your phone, which is making you a lazy, unmotivated person, which leads you to do this more often. It's more of a root cause solution. Because yes, removing this from your room, removing the Coke from your room is helpful. But the more things you remove and the more things that cast votes for the good person and remove votes from the bad version of you, easier it is to do that or to not do that. That's what I mean. So that's what I mean by that. So leveraging the places. Where the places you go that remind you of this bad habit or the version of you that does that bad habit, or where you specifically do that bad habit, limit them. So write them all down. Now we go to people. This is probably going to be the most uncomfortable one for you. This is the one that in the back of your head, you know you have to do one day, but you're too scared to do it. And understand that, because this just basically, it's easy. Who are the people you do this with, and who are the people who unmotivated you, or who remind you basically of this bad version of you, or who reinforce that bad version of you? And then on the flip side, who are the people who discourage you from doing that, and who basically encourage you to be the good version of you? You want to spend more time with these people. You want to limit time with these people, cut out these people. Very simple. Like, remove your dealer's phone number. Don't see your dealer anymore. Don't see the people who give it to you or who you source it off. Remove it. If it's something like porn or lust, for example, what you need to do is you need to unfollow. First of all, you need to block all the apps or the website, but you need to also unfollow any girl that you do not know personally, which is a family or a very, very close friend. So girls you do not know and you're not inspired by. So you're no longer following any chicks just because they have a big ass, because that is not helping you. That is not helping you. You need to unfollow them. And what you also need to do is spend 10 minutes scrolling on Instagram, and whenever you see a thirst trap, click the 3 dots, say not interested. Click the 3 dots, say not interested. I had to do this with video games. I used to play video games all the time. I used to play Pokemon. That was my favorite thing. I would wish I could play that all the time, even to today, but I can't, because I have bigger priorities and this is more important to me. It's what I used to do a lot when I was a kid. So naturally, my YouTube was filled with videos about that video game. So what I had to do is literally go through YouTube, go through my feed on YouTube, and whenever a video came up relating to that game, click on the 3 dots, not interested. And I did that for around a minute. And then when I refreshed the feed, it didn't come up. But then maybe every month one would come up. So I just clicked not interested again, just to let the algorithm know I don't want to see this. You need to do that as well. So when it comes to people, you know the answer to this. I don't need to tell you the answer to this, but you know the people who you need to get rid of. And you are scared to do this. And I understand that 100% because I've been in this position before many times. I've had to do this a number of times. And you will have to keep doing this because as you grow, so will your standards, which means you'll probably outgrow the people who you're currently friends with. But what you have to do is you just have to ruthlessly say to yourself, be completely honest. Does this person lead me to doing this? Does this person encourage or make me this person, or do they make me this person? Who does this person make me? When I'm with this person, how do I feel? Do I feel motivated to do this, or do I feel motivated to do this? Do I feel motivated to do the bad habits, or do I feel motivated to do the good habits? Do I feel motivated to be the old version of me that they know that goes out, that does drugs, that drinks all the time, that smokes weed. When I'm with this person, do I feel like that version of me? Or do I feel like I am more, I can be more, that they see me as more, they see me as the person who can get a good physique or who can, make gains in business or whatever it is, or just self-improvement, my mental. Who do I feel when I'm around this particular person? If they are holding you back. There's this analogy, it's called the crabs in the bucket analogy. So imagine that we have a bucket, and in this bucket there's a bunch of crabs. And these crabs are trying to escape from the bucket. They're trying to get out of the bucket. Now, in order for them to climb out of the bucket, they have to climb on top of each other, really, to get out. And if they really wanted to all get out of the bucket, they would basically work as a team in order to pull each other all up. Maybe make a ladder and everyone gets up, basically. But that's not how crabs would think. That's not what they do. If you were to actually do this, what you'd realize is they would all just climb on top of each other, and as soon as one crab is making progress and is almost at the top of the bucket, another crab is also trying to climb and he pulls him back down. And as a result, none of the crabs get out of the bucket because they're all pulling each other back down in order to achieve and succeed. So I want you to ask yourself, who in your life is the crab? Who are the crabs? Who are the ones where whenever you feel like you're top shit, you're making progress, you're doing well, you've got a solid streak going, you hit a good workout, then you go and see them and it feels like nothing happened. You made no progress. You've gone back down. Who is it? Who are those people? Write them down. Now, you might not write them down because you have this belief that, well, they're my day ones. They've known me, the people who know me the most, and all these things. But you might be scared because if you remove them, then maybe you have no mates left. Maybe you're going to be alone. And I'm going to tell you right now that in most people's self-improvement journey, or journey of becoming a better version of themselves, and where you're not doing as many bad habits and you're achieving your goals, you will likely go through this lonely phase where you realize the people who you do hang out with or who you used to hang out with can no longer take you, or you can no longer take them with you to where you're going. But you haven't yet met those people, like your people, the people who are going to champion you on. But you will never allow yourself to meet these new people, these dream people, these people who you can imagine. You have this dream. I know you do, because you are a younger version of me. You have these dream people who you think about, who you dream about. These people who lift you up at the gym. These people who lift you up in business. These people who encourage your good habits. You will never find them if you don't make space. You have to make space by spending less time with these people. Because if all your time and energy is consumed by these people, then what percentage of time do you have left dedicated to finding these people? 0. You don't. So you have to remove these people, or at least severely limit your time with these people. If you want to go back to the 80-20 rule, spend 20% of time with these people and 80% of your time finding these people or working on yourself till you become the person that these people would hang around. Right now, you might have a belief. It's called a scarcity mindset. Now, a scarcity mindset, put simply, is the belief in finite resources. It's the belief that there is not enough out there for me. That what I have is the best. Is the best I'll ever get. And this mindset is holding you back. What you need, or what would be much better for you to adopt, is something known as an abundance mindset. This could be things like an abundance mindset. It could be a thing to adopt, an abundance mindset. An abundance mindset is basically the belief that there are infinite resources available for me. So there's infinite amount of friends I could have. And there is always something better for me. There's always something better for me. Or there is a dream, or there are dream friendships out there for me. Now, this is why spiritual is important, because that requires faith. Faith, put simply, is basically the belief in things not yet seen. So you don't have these things yet, but in order to get them, you first have to believe that they're there, which requires faith. It requires a level of delusion, and that's okay. That's completely fine. Now, you have to realize that there is not a scarce amount of friends out there available for you. There is an abundance. There is an abundance of high quality people out there, and there's enough for you. There's enough for everyone, actually. And me having high quality friends doesn't mean that there's less for you. You know, there's people you likely look up to on social media who have these dream friendships that you think about. Maybe they have 5 really good friends. You think, oh, I wish I could have something like that. Them having that doesn't mean that there's less for you. That's the core of the abundance mindset. And when you adopt that mindset, that makes it easier. It doesn't make it easy, because this will come with a lot of pain and suffering, but it makes it easier to let go. Because you realize that, okay, even though I'm sacrificing this, it's because I know that this exists and it's there for me. Now, this is why things such as going to the gym, maybe having cold showers and things along those lines are good to do, because they're quite painful. And the more pain you become used to, because you're voluntarily going to the gym, which is painful. You're voluntarily doing cold showers, which is painful. Maybe you're voluntarily meditating, which I would recommend. I would mention that in another one, which I'll mention in another video, but that can be quite painful mentally. It's because the more tolerance you build to suffering and pain, the easier it is to go through these things you need to go through in order to become this person. An easy step to do is just, first of all, list down everyone you speak to, everyone you see, and even everyone you follow. Everyone you see on your feed. You can even go through your following list if you like, and maybe you don't write them down, but you just do this straight away as you're going through your following list. And you just ask a simple question of, like, do I do these bad habits with these people? Do they remind me of these bad habits? Or, like, which version of me do I think of, or do they encourage when I'm with them? Is it the bad version, or is it the good version? The one I'm trying to get away from, or the one I'm trying to be? Then assign them to which side of the board they are. If they're over here, you have to spend less time with them. Either cut them out completely, or only 20% of your time, which leaves 80% of your time to spend it with maybe the 1 or 2 people who you discovered reinforces this. Because it is you're much wealthier in terms of even just relationships. You'll be much more fulfilled to have just even one person who reinforces this version of you, rather than to be surrounded by 25 fake friends who encourage you to be this bad version of you. And the last one is things. So what are the things that are around you the most? So we've talked a bit about this in your room and things along those lines, but we also want to upgrade, the things we are consuming, both with our diet, things along those lines, but also what we're consuming in terms of media. So think about things such as TV, social media, the news, and things along those lines. Like, if everything, as I said before, on your feed reminds you of the loser version of you don't want to be, unfollow it. Or just stop watching, like delete the apps, delete Instagram, delete YouTube. Like, I don't care if you never watch YouTube again or watch my videos again, as long as this video impacts you. That's all I want. I want you to start taking action here. But you need to remove the things that do this. So what I want you to do now is just take 5 minutes and list them out. List everything out. Fill out this table. So, okay, I told you I'd do an example here with you. So, okay, let's say Coke. So let's say people. Let's say it's friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, and then maybe it's like family member. So I'm going to say family member 4 because they don't believe in me or whatever. And then thing 1 is probably, okay, Instagram reminds me of this because when I'm on Instagram, I feel like a loser. So I'm going to stop going on Instagram. I'm also going to stop going on TikTok. I'm going to start watching Netflix. I'm not going to watch the news anymore because the news makes me feel the news makes me feel sad because all I see on there, for example, maybe is all the horrible things that are happening on the other side of the world. And then when I feel down and gloomy, I'm more motivated to do this. But then you might say, well, but then I'm not going to know what's going on in the world. Who cares? What would you rather, know what's going on in the world or stop doing this? Would you rather be addicted to the marshmallow or not? That's it. Sometimes you have to remove the marshmallow till you can handle the marshmallow again. That's all we're doing here. Maybe in your room, you remove the TV because it makes it harder to do these things. Maybe you put your phone. So a good thing here is you put your phone outside your room. You charge it outside your room or something along those lines. And you have dumbbells in your room. So this can be a dumbbell. Maybe you have just that picture I drew before, like maybe it's just your books next to you or something along those lines. And then maybe the only places you go to is you only go to the gym. You only go for walks, like around your house. Maybe there's a nice green area around your house you go to. You only go to the friend's house. Maybe you go work out at his house or something along your lines. That friend who is also on self-improvement. Maybe you don't go to fast food places because you realize that that's what leads to this as well. So maybe you just don't go eating out, whatever it is. And you might say, yeah, but I'm removing all the joy from my life. I'll make a video about that, but that ties into dopamine. And there is a way to hack dopamine to make these enjoyable, so enjoyable that you no longer desire to do any of these. And that is the goal. That is basically the end goal of self-improvement or the end goal of developing self-control. So maybe the only things you do is the only place you go is like work. Maybe you work from home. Maybe you work at maybe you don't work from home. Maybe you work for a company. So you may work. You might go to the gym. You might go for walks. And you might go to that one friend's house who is good. And then you might also go, I don't know, maybe a networking event or something along those lines. And the only people you hang out with might just be that one friend. But then maybe on social media, you might only speak to, maybe there's a self-improvement community, which I have one if you would like. I'll put it in the description. I have a community on Discord. If you're familiar with Discord, where there's just a bunch of guys in there for free, completely free, who are working on self-improvement, past clients of mine, and some new guys as well. You can hop into that as well, just completely free. And you can, if you do hop in there, just let us know, hey, it came from this video as well, because that will help me know how successful this video is in terms of that. Because then I know what you guys want, and then I can give that back to you. So maybe there's a self-improvement community and those are the only people you talk to, like there's a business community or whatever it is. Those are the only people you talk to. Maybe you start going to, run clubs or stuff like that, because those are typically people who might have these similar values to you, or these good values of the people you want to become. You might start going to them. And then things like, if you stop doing Instagram or you stop scrolling on Instagram all day, well, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? Or what else are you going to watch in your spare time? Maybe you decide, okay, if I am going to go on YouTube, maybe I'm only going to watch business content or self-improvement content. Or when I'm driving, I'm not going to listen to degenerate music where all they talk about or all they rap about is how many bitches they're slamming and how many bags of coke they're doing. I'm just going to listen to podcasts or an audiobook. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to nothing. I'm just going to work out with nothing. I'm going to work out listening to a podcast or whatever it is. So you're stacking everything in your favor. And then in your room, as I said, you might have your dumbbells. You might have some books. You might have just like your work things. And then before bed, you would optimize your room. You'll get your things out. You maybe put your dumbbells out. You might get your gym clothes out so that when you wake up, it's already done. You don't have to spend extra effort, because before bed, you have energy. So you want to spend that energy getting yourself, stacking the next day in your favor, optimizing the environment for the next day. So now you have everything you need in order to stack your environment so that, as I said earlier, these things are easier to do. Because the whole point of environment, The whole point of self-control, or the whole point of all of this, is to get to a point where the marshmallow is in front of you and you don't touch it. That's called self-control. But before we get to that point, we have to remove the marshmallow so that we can develop the qualities within us that would lead us to not touching the marshmallow if it was in front of us. If it was in front of us, which are the chemical, mental, and emotional factors, as well as the spiritual, if you want to learn about that, as well as the spiritual. So thank you for spending your time to listen to this. Go ahead, finish out this table if you haven't already, or just write it down somewhere and just start actioning it. You know, maybe you're the type of person who can just remove everything at once. Do it. But maybe you take a bit more time. Maybe you remove one thing per day, or one thing per week, or not one thing per week, but you optimize the places this week, and then you optimize the people this week. Or maybe you optimize the things first this week, because that's probably the easiest, and then your room. It's probably the easiest. So maybe you start with that this week. The next week you do the places, and then the people. You slowly cut that out. But I'd recommend just go all in. Just go all in, because it's going to happen anyways. In order for you to get to this point where you don't want to do this bad habit anymore, these things are going to have to go. They're going to have to go. So why would you delay it? Why would you not just do it right now? So there are going to be two people who watch this video. There are going to be the people who do this today, who do this right away, and they'll see the faster results. You guys are going to be that strong person, the weak person in the strong environment who beats Michael Jordan. But then there are going to be the ones who procrastinate, who take a bit more time, which means you're just not going to get there quick enough, which means these goals that you have, they're just not going to happen as quick. And I don't know, are you okay with that? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be okay with that. So as scary as it is, and yes, you're going to fail, and yes, you are going to go back to those places maybe, and you are going to message those friends again maybe, maybe you reinstall Snapchat where that group chat is, maybe delete the group chat, leave the group chat, or delete Snapchat, or whatever it is. I don't know. What are you doing still using Snapchat as a 24-year-old? Grow up. You don't need it anymore. Text people, message them on Instagram or Messenger. Grow up. Basically, at the end of the day, environmental is basically just doing an audit of your life, where you spend the most time, who you spend it with, and doing what, and watching what, and listening to what, and all of these things. And when you optimize it, you're removing the things that lead you to doing that bad habit, or those bad habits, or the version of you don't want to be. And then you're optimizing the things that lead you to doing the good habits, or make it easier to do the good habits and be the person you want to be. That's the crux of environmental. Making the bad things hard to do and the good things easy to do. Make those bad things impossible, almost impossible to do. Okay? Make them harder to do than the easy things, and you will win your environment. Now, as I said, there'll be a link in the description that you can click in order to join an environment. If you would like to be in an environment where there are guys who are working on beating their bad habits and creating good habits and creating a life of purpose and success and all these things, click that top link in the description, and you can join in there. If not, there's a bunch of other great communities you can go and find out there. As I said, you can join a run club, you can do whatever you want. But I think having a community that's online, because lots of our lives are online these days, so having a good online community is a great thing to do. So go and find one. If you can't find one that you enjoy, I've got one in the description. Now, if you are someone who has been struggling with a bad habit for quite some time, you haven't really made much progress, or you feel like you have plateaued, there's only so much a YouTube video can help you. If you want to speed up your progress, or you're looking for some more personal guidance, I'll have a link in the description as well, where you can book in to speak with me for a very small fee, or even just like $2 or $3. Maybe if you're watching this in a few months' time, or maybe a year's time, it might be more than that, or there might be another link down there. But at the end of the day, just have a look in the description. There'll be some other resources in there as well. As I said, I'll post a link to my community. I'll post a link to speak with me one-on-one, whether that's free or paid. Will depend on when you're watching this. And then I'll also just post down some free resources you can access as well. You can have a look at those. There's there'll be a habit tracker. There'll be just some free videos as well, which I'll eventually probably upload to YouTube as well, considering this is my first video. So if you are watching my first ever video, whether you're watching it straight away since it's been released, or you're watching it into the future, maybe a year or so after it's been released, thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. I know at the start of the video I said this will go for half an hour. I don't think it has. I think it's gone way over that, but I know you've gotten some great value out of these things today. So go ahead, optimize your environment. Actually make sure you just take the action. Make sure you don't just write down and then be like, oh yes, I spent half an hour writing this down, or I spent 15 minutes writing this down. Go me. And then you go and, I don't know, open up your phone because you're like, oh, I made a bit of progress. Now I can relax for a bit. Don't do anything that is pleasurable until you actually action these things. Write them down. Yes, that's step one, but make sure you action them. As I said, maybe just action one thing today, or one thing right now, and then maybe tomorrow or next week you go more in depth, you do another thing. But yeah, if you need anything, pop down a question in the comments, shoot me a message, or find me on social media. On Instagram is probably the best place. Shoot me a message there, and yeah, take care lads, and I'll see you on the next video.